And it's a sellout, even though the tickets were not sold. They were handed out. 20,000 people there. You see Pope Francis. He is now inside Madison Square Garden. He's in a golf cart. He's being brought in. The people. Let's just listen in for a moment. You're watching this together with all of us. The Pope obviously excited. He's happy. He's very happy to see this crowd. You see Cardinal Timothy Dolan right behind him there as he's being driven in this sort of golf cart, maybe a small version of a Pope mobile in Madison Square Garden, getting ready to celebrate Mass with 20,000 very, very, very fortunate Catholic supporters. The Pope has an enormous responsibility right now. Delia, walk us through a little bit of what to expect during this Mass.
Wolf, I want to point out to you that the man that is walking on the screen left of the Pope is the head of Vatican security, and he is the right-hand man of the Pope on these trips and indeed at the Vatican. If the Pope wants to stop, if he wants a child brought to him, that is the man that he signals to, and I think that man probably knows what the Pope wants before the Pope even tells him. And one of the interesting things, Wolf, that I have noticed on this trip compared to past trips and past popes is these speeches of Pope Francis have absolutely his handprint all over it. They're very simple, very direct. The language is vintage Pope Francis, and I think it is one of the reasons why we say that he has this effect when you are meeting him in person, and his words and his presence, perhaps even to the Speaker of the House. But indeed, even in his speeches, the language that he has used is not very typical of papal language. It is simple, direct, human language, and I think that is part of the reason why he is able to get people's attention and why people remember. If you remember when he was elected, Wolf, at the Vatican, and he came out onto the balcony, and the first thing he said was "Buonasera," good evening. A Pope had never started any kind of speech like that. You don't start a speech like that when you're Pope. You say, "Dear brothers and sisters," or you say another phrase. So this Pope, right off the bat, and he has continued it, and I think it's been highlighted in this trip, a very simple, direct language straight to the heart of the people. Wolf?
Very simple and direct and powerful and beautiful. You see Cardinal Timothy Dolan, John Allen, right behind the Cardinal has been at his side, at the Pope's side, virtually, I think every second we've seen him, there's Cardinal Dolan. It's pretty unusual, isn't it?
No. In Washington, I'm sure you saw that Cardinal Donald Wuerl of Washington was with the Pope almost all the time, and once he gets to Philadelphia, Archbishop Charles Chaput of Philadelphia will be with him. The host bishop is always with the Pope. And I think that's especially important for this Pope because, he doesn't want to be a lonely autocrat. I mean, he wants to govern in communion with all the bishops of the world, and so, giving them this face time, putting them in the spotlight alongside him.
Just bless that little child.
Yeah, and as Delia was saying, that's vintage Francis. It's something you see him do at all of his stops. And there you see Cardinal Dolan reaching out to repeat the gesture. This is something that's extraordinarily important to the Pope. You might see him stop 2 or 3 different times along the way tonight to do this kind of thing.
And you see some of those little kids are obviously suffering right now, and the parents bring their child and hoping that the Pope will give them a blessing.
Sure, and as Delia was saying, the security team that's around the Pope are guys who travel with him all the time. And they know the kind of person that the Pope would like to be able to be present to in a special way, and they make that possible for him.
You know, a lot of people don't know this. Look at that picture. Look at these people over there. They're getting a blessing from the Pope. A lot of people don't know this, Jim Sciutto. You know what was supposed to be at Madison Square Garden tonight? A Billy Joel concert. But Billy Joel obviously understood. He agreed that they could reschedule a Billy Joel concert. You can't very often reschedule a visit by the Pontiff to Madison Square Garden.
Billy Joel's good. He's a New Yorker, but no one will play Madison Square Garden like this Pope. And just as you saw there, the emotion that blessing from the Pope raised in those parents there.
Yes.
I watched them as a parent myself, and just imagine that feeling. It's you see how important it is. You see the effect that he has on people.
And you see a lot of priests who have gathered there as well. Do they just decide who comes? Which priest is allowed to come?
Well, typically it would be the local organizers. In this case, that's the Archdiocese of New York. Generally speaking, they put out invitations to any priest who wants to can celebrate, as long as the facility can visibly hold them. Sometimes you will see some priests on the altar and others in seats around it. We also need a large number of priests, obviously, to distribute communion to such a large crowd.
There's going to be a lot of communion. All right, everyone stand by. We're only minutes away from the start of this historic Mass at Madison Square Garden. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.